The forest buzzed with whispers of pine needles underfoot, but the air was thick with something heavier resentment. Karen, a self-proclaimed neighborhood watchdog, had spotted the faded green tent pitched near the creek on public land. To her, it was an eyesore, a blight on her pristine vision of the community. She didn't ask questions. She didn't care. With a huff, she dismantled it, tossing the veteran's belongings into a pile, claiming it for herself. "Abandoned junk," she muttered, hauling the tent to her garage, unaware of the storm she'd just ignited. The tent belonged to Jack, a grizzled veteran who'd seen too many battles both overseas and within himself. Every month, he'd trek to this exact spot, a ritual shared with Sheriff Dan, his old friend from high school. They'd camp, swap stories, and find solace under the stars. A fleeting escape from Jack's haunted memories. That tent wasn't just canvas. It was his sanctuary, his tether to peace. When he arrived that evening, finding only trampled grass where his tent once stood, rage boiled in his chest. He knew who to confront. Karen's driveway was a battleground by sundown. Jack stood tall, his weathered hands clenched, voice low but trembling with fury. "That tent's mine, Karen. You had no right." Karen, arms crossed, smirked, her tone dripping with condescension. "It was on public land, Jack. Finders keepers." Her words were gasoline. Jack's eyes blazed, and Sheriff Dan, summoned by a neighbor's call, stepped between them, his badge glinting under the fading light. "Karen, you stole private property," Dan said, his voice calm but razor-sharp. "Return it. Now." Karen doubled down, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "I'm protecting our community. That tent was a hazard." She gestured wildly, oblivious to the crowd gathering neighbors who knew Jack's story, his sacrifices. Whispers turned to murmurs of disgust. Jack's voice cracked as he spoke. "That tent held me together, Karen. You took more than you know." The sheriff's jaw tightened. He'd seen Karen's antics before her petty crusades, but this crossed a line. The standoff grew electric. Karen, sensing the tide turning, faltered but refused to back down. "I'll sue," she snapped, clutching the tent tighter. Dan shook his head, pulling out his notepad. "You're lucky it's just a fine for now." The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a chorus of judgment. Jack, though, wasn't after punishment. He just wanted his tent, his ritual, his peace. Karen's defiance crumbled as neighbors began recounting Jack's kindness, how he'd fixed their fences, shared his campfire stories. Shame crept into her eyes, but pride kept her silent. In the end, Karen returned the tent, but the damage was done. Jack packed it carefully, his hands shaking not from anger but from the weight of violation. He and Dan walked back to the creek, but the ritual felt tainted. Karen, alone in her garage, faced a community that no longer trusted her. The tent was just canvas, but her actions had unraveled something deeper: trust, respect, humanity. Was Karen's act a misguided attempt at order, or a selfish grab for control? What does justice look like when pride clashes with pain?